When you have a growing family, other things in your life start getting bigger too, like your home.
Can't wait for the new jack! What?
And especially your bills.
That'll be $249.86.
Oh.
But with Allstate, the amount you can save is getting bigger too. Because right now, when you bundle coverage for your car, home, motorcycle, and more, you can save up to 30%.
Call Adrian Smiley today at 317-228-0707.
Good afternoon, Facebook world and my speaker audience. You are tuned in to Let's Go There with Cassandra. I am super excited about today's show. It is our last show of the season, and we have a hour-packed show filled with some phenomenal guests. And so I'm going to let my guests start off by introducing themselves, starting with you, Miss Tangi. Tell the people a little bit about who you are.
Well, hello, I am Tangi. That's Angie with a T. I am originally from Gary. Been here in Indy for a while.
Make sure you're talking to that mic.
With two beautiful girls, Abby Grace and Ava Rose, and I'm just really geeked to be here.
Awesome. Miss Latia.
Yes, my name is Latia McCray-Dyga. I am also from Indianapolis, Indiana. Been a hairstylist in the salon industry for over 20 years. Owner of Tony Elaine Salon, entrepreneur in the salon industry, and mother of 3 beautiful children.
Awesome. Dr. Tyra.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Tyra Selden. I'm the owner, founder of Selden Writing Group, LLC. We're a full-service writing, editing, and content development company. I'm a native of Detroit, and I've been living here about 15 years.
Awesome. So today we are talking about the power of sharing your story. We are going to just kind of dive right into this and talk about, Dr. Tyra, from your perspective. And remember, when y'all are talking to the mic. Don't do this because it won't catch it. You ain't got to look at me. No, you ain't got to do the left to the right. Just go straight ahead. Just talk straight ahead. Get to the mic. Why is it important, from your perspective as a writing coach, to share your story?
I'm a firm believer that all of us have stories in us. Some of us may choose not to share them or to publish them for public consumption, but we all have stories. And I look at it from the vantage point of being a formerly trained English professor. And so stories often capture one's belief systems, culture, history. And so when people don't share their stories, there's a part of them that is not shared for posterity's sake. So we often think in terms of what's important to us, what's valuable. And if you think about it, most often that's conveyed through stories, whether it is an oral story or a written story. So I am a firm believer that we all should share our stories in some capacity.
So there is a quote, one of my favorite quotes, and I think, Dr. Tyra, you helped me find this quote when I was working on my TED Talk, by Maya Angelou, that says there's no greater agony than bearing an untold story.
Yes,
and so when you think about that, you are literally in agony with yourself when you don't share your stories. Right. So, Tia, as you think about your story, why do you think it's important to share your story?
There's a church song that I listen to and I love. I believe it's by William McDowell. And it says, "My life is not my own. To you I belong. I give myself to you. I give myself away so that you can use me." And what that means is our lives, everything we've been through, our stories are not ours. They're for someone else. You know, and when you get to a point in life where, you know, you have to get rid of that being selfish, because we want to keep things to ourselves, and it causes us to be selfish, and no one can receive us when we're keeping things to ourselves or being transparent. So it's about giving yourself away so that other people can use what you've been through as a testimony, and to help others along the way that may be fighting battles secretly that you know nothing about.
That's good. I always say that what you go through is not for you. It really is to help somebody else. And so,
that's right.
You know, the word also talks about we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Well, if we're not speaking and sharing, then we, aren't going to overcome, and somebody else isn't going to overcome as well. So Tangi, as you think about your story, why do you think it's important to share your story?
Well, on top of needing to tell others so they can get out of their situation, or me leading by example, for me, it was do or die. If I did not tell my story, if I did not let anyone know what was going on in my life daily, weekly, minute by minute, I was going to die internally. I was kind of dead internally. So once I started sharing, there was a path to getting out and being free. And now I'm in that pocket of joy. So I had to tell that story. It was do or die.
Yeah. And what do you mind sharing a little bit of your story? Not all of it, because you're going to write a book.
Yes.
And we want people to read your book.
I pray so.
But just a little bit about, what is your story?
Sure. So I was with my college sweetheart, and we've been together since I was 21 and he was 20, and we grew up together. We just matured together, went through adulthood together. I'm 39 now, and we went through college, and we partied, and we had so much fun. But then after 25, 26, it's like, okay, the fun, we need to back up a little bit, and then in our 30s, he was still partying, and I was trying to mature, and addiction took over, unfortunately. He had issues with alcohol, and I just hid it from everyone, hid it from myself, and we eventually got married, and we had children, and that's when something clicked, and I had to break free. So I was hiding it for so long that it just became the norm, and we became a great partnership because he's dope. He's an excellent person, but I wasn't being excellent. And I didn't want my children, my girls, to see that. So unfortunately, after 16 years of being together, last year, we had a big fallout, and I broke free. And then is when I began to share my story after 16 years of it. Really 15 years of living this life with addiction, because it became an addiction for me, not on alcohol level, but the need to cover up and just not be free. And so last year we separated, and not many people know that, so it's really freeing to say that. We're best friends. We still are best friends. We're co-parenting on a level I did not expect, but it's just a different life being a single mom. I never thought I would be. So it's just, I'm finding myself, and he's finding himself. And so I'm better. I just, I don't want to live with regrets. Hey, we should have divorced or separated years ago, but happened for a reason. And I think if I would have broken free or shared my story when I was in the dark, it just would have been dark. It just would have been darkness. It would have just been a hole. It would have been, oh, woe is me. Oh no, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But now that I'm in a place of joy, my story has an ending.
That's good. How did you find the courage to say, you know what, I have to get to a point where I start sharing this story with people?
Well, I had so many buckets that were filled. It became a little lake, and then became an infinity pool. The buckets just kept filling up, and I just kept taking and taking. So finally, I just had enough. I said, no more pool, no more, nothing else, nothing. I can't do anything else. I can't love you through it. I can't love me through it. I can't, it's just becoming dangerous for me mentally. So literally in real time when situations would happen, I shared to my friends. Really nervous about being judged. No one judged me. They all helped me. All stepped up. And so together, my squad, which I call my squad, hey squad, we came out, we broke free, and I'm free, and I'm joyous, and I'm happy, and I love, and I like everything and anything around me, literally everything. So me sharing it is what helped me have a game plan. I didn't have a game plan. I didn't even think of having a game plan. I was just living. I was just living. So now, my friends, you know, they see me more because I'm sharing more, you know, and it's not bashing. It's not dogging anyone out. And it's definitely not victim anymore because my story, like I said, has an ending.
And that's so powerful. Like, we don't share because we're afraid of what people are going to say. We're afraid of how they're going to treat us. You know, there's that old saying in the Black community, you know, you don't talk about what goes on in your house outside of your house. You know, you want to hide it in
that.
well, you know, but as a people, that's what, house business. You don't share your house business. You don't talk about it. And it keeps you like locked up in this prison and not able to break free. And a lot of times we don't share too because maybe that person is still living and we don't want to offend that person or hurt that person. So it's like, how do you share? So I know with thinking about that, Tia, and your story that you have, do you mind sharing just a little bit with the people of how you got to a point where you are now finally ready to share your story?
It got to the point where I was like, I needed to be a voice for the voiceless. It took me years. It's similar to yours, where it took me years to finally say enough is enough. Living in secrecy and silence my entire life. My story is about two heroic women in my life. One's my mother and my daughter. My mom, she passed away when I was 16 years old, and she had 3 other babies under me. When she was a young woman, 4 kids and married, she had her last child, and she got AIDS. They gave her AIDS in the hospital. So my mom died at 36 years old and left 4 children and a husband. We didn't know my mom had HIV or AIDS, me and my siblings, all that time. The family didn't talk about it.
Stay at the mic. DJ said stay at the
sorry.
mic. It's
The family didn't talk about it. You know, it's just our family was always taught to never look like what you're going through. Don't tell anybody anything. It was just a secrecy. And that crippled me for years, not being able to share my mom's story or talk about it. Made me feel like I was keeping her honor by keeping her privacy.
Keeping her honor.
So I didn't speak about her and what I saw her go through and what we went through in that home. So we were really denying who we were. I was denying who I was for years. And like you said, having friends I grew up with, nobody knew how she passed or what happened. I'm sorry. I have to look to the left and the right.
We got to capture this audio because I need my listeners that are listening via the website to be able to hear you.
Just not being able to be transparent. It made me not be a transparent individual. I always was private. I was a private woman. I looked strong and looked like I had everything together all the time, but inside I was falling apart a lot of times. People would tell me their stuff, but I never told my stuff, you know, so I was always the unrelatable woman. People just saw she got it together. She's this and she's that, but they didn't know the battles, you know, that were being fought, you know, growing up. So it ripped me apart in relationships and relationships with friends. You know, I never felt like they had the full me when you keep something so private, you know. What started tearing me up was the fact that I felt like no one knew of my mom. With not sharing her story, you know, we were always never telling what she really passed away from. We shied away from talking about her. So we didn't want to discuss her a lot. So it's like her memory died. You know, and when your mom's memory died, who died? You died, you know? So I was slowly dying. And later on, you know, my daughter, she had ended up having heart issues.